Nice to meet you guys. And yeah, smaller class. How are you? Hanging in? I'm good. I'm good. Good morning. Yeah, so I figured, especially with just two of you guys, you can sort of tell me a little bit about what you're doing. I don't want to get redundant on the things that I talked about, but I know Mr. Schumacher filled me in a little bit on sort of the course of it. You've had like specific projects that you do, but in terms of, I don't know, maybe you can fill me in on what they are. I know one of them was recreating songs.
Yeah, that was the most recent one. And then, kind of like throughout the year as it's went on, we felt like the first one was just using basic loops from Logic to create a short form song.
Okay.
And there's been creating different parts of the song, creating a drum groove, creating 808, or my favorite one so far we did was like 2 weeks ago was sampling, so incorporating a sample into a short form song. Pretty much, it's either making a loop or making a short form song using some sort of like technique.
Okay. Okay. Helpful. What was, when you pulled samples, what would you put in your sample?
I sampled the Amen Brother drums for mine.
Nice. And what did you sample?
I sampled a rock song, or a couple rock songs by a band called Stain.
Nice. Yeah. What songs from Stain?
What's his name? I think Take It. Get the other one.
Okay.
Yeah, I forget the other one.
Yeah, I think I know like 2, so
Yeah.
even if you said it, I might not have actually even known it. But that's cool. So what did you turn Stain into? Is it like a...
I mean, I could have trouble with the project, but I was just trying to get the like drum groove and the I guess some of the guitar tracks into something like just something new. But
Yeah. And what did you do with the Amen drums?
I sort of like sped it up and like changed up the tempo of this whole song because I make it a little like fast paced. I don't really know what genre to fall under, but
Yeah.
it definitely like I changed it enough to the point where it's like near unrecognizable, and I even chopped up some of the beats to make like a different sort of drum group with the already existing drums.
Nice. Nice. And do you guys, what do you use to sample? What did you use to switch the stuff up?
So like I said, I just kind of like split it up and like rearranged some parts, and I tried mixing like some effects, like going with reverb. I didn't think that fit, so I kind of just kept it simple and left it at like I changed the tempo, like changed the speed, and then like a rearranged it up parts.
Cool. And so is that just clicking around on the like, I mean, I guess the question there is Quick Sampler. Is that something that you guys...
Yeah, I tried using that, but it
Yeah.
didn't work out for me, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, was it more about the, like just the way it was sounding wasn't working, or was it just trying to click around in there, it was tough?
Pretty much the way it was sounding. I mean, it
Yeah.
definitely brought something unique, but it wasn't what I was going for.
Got it. Got it. Cool. Cool, and you guys had never done production stuff before this, it wasn't your... Yeah.
That's my first start, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you guys play music at all?
no.
Before instruments? Yeah. Cool. I have my background. I'll just share a little bit about my trajectory here, which is that I started with music. My family was pretty musical, and so the production stuff was foreign to me. But I have friends that are like successful that have no idea how to play any instruments, which is incredible to me. But they have, some idea of this stuff. You can really do some cool stuff tweaking around just in the digital world. But for me, it was, I started playing guitar, and again, my family played music, so I did that. And I had GarageBand, which, like dig around, you can do the musical typing, and I would try to make stuff that way. And usually at the beginning, it was just that I didn't have anybody else that played music, so I'd just make like little backing tracks that I could just do guitar solos over. And so, there would be little crappy, just drum beats with, stuff. And that was really fun, but then a friend of mine's brother had this called an MPD, which is like beat pad. And I started playing around with that, and it started to be a lot more fun. And I started posting little videos on Instagram, and it ended up being sort of within the genre of, unintentionally, of like lo-fi and chill hopping. Are those genres you guys are familiar with? I mean, you've heard of them, perhaps?
I heard of them,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, it's funny. It's these little, it's essentially glorified elevator music people use to sort of do homework and, work too. But I found this little niche, and it's been a cool, like, side job. I mean, I get a check every month, and it's not that much, but it's like a fun, use of time. And production can be, I think now in the digital world, you can really use the stuff. You don't have to be, Rick Rubin or, I don't know, any other successful producer in order to just have like a good time with it and have some use of it in your life. So if you keep going with it, that's awesome. And always feel free to hit me up if you have any questions as we go on. But I figured I'd go through, I don't know, just my process with it, just some things that may be helpful as you think around in your projects and try to come up with some stuff to use. But this is a project that I had just sort of started. We could start one, I guess, especially with just two of you, we could kind of hold it. I could start a track from scratch and try to talk through just like each step of what I do to see if that would be helpful from a basic part of things. We could dissect this one a little bit, or break down, like a full track that I have from start to finish. But what do you feel like would be most helpful as you're trying to sort of navigate the creation side of things?
I mean, I think for me, seeing one being built would be interesting.
Okay.
I think it's the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's start from scratch. And the cool part about this is that it's not going to be good, and that's what we like. Because the thing is that when it comes to this stuff, that's the part that as I've gotten better, I've been like, all right, well, I'm going to shave down the time that I make bad stuff. And that has not been true at all. There was actually one time that a period of time that I decided I was like, I'm gonna try this music thing full time. I was like, right now I'm making finishing 2 songs a month. I was like, if I quit my job and do this, I bet I could make 12 songs a month. And then I was like, that could be reasonable. Then what happened was I quit my job and then I made 2 songs a month. So I was like, this is my job now. It has to be perfect. And then I try to perfect it, and then I would screw it up more, and then I would still end up with 2 songs a month. So, the purpose of that is that, or the reasoning behind that is like, this stuff is, the goal is to just put yourself in the position to try stuff. And I would say the biggest hurdle for me, the biggest thing, even in doing classwork that I think is important, is that it's so easy to get backed into a corner and be like, okay, I've run out of ideas, or I've run out of things to do, or this sounds bad and I don't know what to do with it next. And so I think a big part of sort of the production stuff and what you're learning in terms of getting all these different techniques and tools is just finding different hallways out of being stuck, because it's like, you can try to do a bunch of stuff and you don't have to be married to every idea that you make. So with that, we'll just do kind of I'll just do like some standard sort of lo-fi thing. So, for me, there's this side of things which you use a lot, but for me I've got just a series of drum kits that I've created. It's a big source of inspiration for me when I'm feeling really stuck. I'll just go for a different drum sound, and it usually always yields some good results. But I make, I'll get like a drum pack where I'll find drums and I'll put them all in a drum machine designer, which is something you guys probably have used. Perhaps?
We looked at it, but we didn't do a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Let's crack one of these suckers open. It's a good one. Let's see. I think this one is going to be nice. Yeah, that's pretty lo-fi. But let's see, this one might be a little bit more fun. Yeah. Okay. So, Drum Machine Designer is this thing. And if you get a blank one, let's see. Actually, never get the blank one. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. It's just a series of little slots that you can stick different sounds in. And there's a few different pages of it, but what I just end up doing, and you can do this on Logic when you look up you're just looking at the snare. You know, you have a bunch of different snares. And so if you really want to get technical, and it might take more time than you want to spend on it, which is okay, but if you want to get technical with it, you can kind of take one snare, drop it into, you know, one of these spots. You can take, you know, one kick. You can switch, mix and match. And anyway, I end up just taking my favorite sort of drum sounds, and I've got this particular series that I do, which is, you know, all these ones on the left are kick drums, and then, you know, the bottom three are snares, and then these four are hi-hats, and it doesn't matter. But I've got sort of a particular method that I've created, and that just helps me, and I think that's the nature of production, which is cool, is that everybody does everything differently, which also makes it really frustrating, because if you go to YouTube, people will be like, well, it doesn't matter, you know, you can do that. Oh, you can pretty much do anything you want. And this is like, actually, music in general, every time I go for advice, somebody's like, well, you know, just do whatever you want. I'm like, no, you know, tell me what to do with it. So, either way. So, when I'm going to start one of these things, what I've come to find, which has been helpful, I think, on projects that take a long time, but also helpful if I had to make something like I'm doing right now, is that, you know, the drums don't have to be set in stone. Nothing has to be set in stone. As I've created these projects, it's like I can watch some of these things evolve, where I get, you know, I make a basic drum groove, and then I make the whole thing, and then I can scrap the drum groove and make a different drum groove, and realize that the piano can switch, and it's like, this sort of moving puzzle piece can be helpful, and so trying to practice non-attachment to whatever you're making is helpful, especially when you're just jotting stuff down, and like Eric, you talked about, like, it wasn't working, so I did something else, and it sounded, you know. So, anyway, if I were to start one of these things, I would make sure the tempo is cool, which 80 is pretty good for this kind of slow, you know, semi-hip-hop groovy thing, and then I would go really simple, I think, which is what we'll do here, but I tend to like acoustic-y snare sounds and stuff, but so I tend to play both. How do you guys do drums or input drums? I know sometimes they're samples, but if you tried to make grooves, how do you do them? How do you do them on a computer? How do you put them in?
There's like I guess like digital keyboard that I usually use. And then I just record whatever I need to get down.
Yeah, and is it the keyboard like an actual computer keyboard?
Yeah, like there's like, I guess the keybinds are like sets of certain keys, and you can go up and down the keyboard, so you can do whatever you need.
Got it. Okay, cool. Well, that's what I'm doing on this thing anyway, buddy.
They've done a lot with the step sequencer too.
Okay, got it. That one I play in a little bit, but I just end up in this sort of realm of things. So this is a, so you got drum groove, which you can do just this straight beat. What the sort of, I forget the word, but the like, you know, the standard in sort of some of the lo-fi stuff is like, instead of just kind of straight eighth note things, they do this swung thing. And if you really exaggerate it, this is if you ever get into the lo-fi world, if you really exaggerate it, it's like the hi-hats are way behind and the snare is way in front, which is like fine tuning, but you can tell in the feel of the song a lot differently. So like very exaggerated. It's something like that. So what I would do, if I were doing this, would be I'd just lay down. Add as much variation as I can reasonably, because that usually helps me. That's like, some of these things are just little, but for me make a huge difference. So, here's my trick with this, is that if I were to quantize this to 16th notes, do you guys do that quantization? Do you? Yeah.
Sometimes,
Yeah, sometimes it helps, especially with the keyboard. It's hard to sometimes get that perfect time-wise. So, sometimes I'll just quantize that, and then you get. That's really straight, like I played it the first time. So what you can do, and are you on Mac computers when you do this? Yeah. So there's this trick where when you highlight one of these things, in the piano roll, I don't know if you'll be able, I can if I zoom it in a lot. You hold Option, and you hit the arrow key. You can just start to see him nudge a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's a fine tuning. Is that something you guys have done?
He shows us,
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Great. So then they're a little bit behind, and then you can take the snare. This works for any hip hop or drum and bass or anything that you would make that sort of you want a more human feel on the drums. You can kind of nudge the snare back a little bit. You can also, while we're just clicking around, stop me if I'm going too fast, but or hurry me up if I'm going too slow. But you can also do 16 swing B. That one tends to be a pretty good help out a little bit with the swing too, and then nudging it forward. So end up with that. What I might also do, if you're asking me, is swing the kicks a little bit too, and not mute them. So that's just a little bit more human than the original thing. So I would start with that in a way that was just like, that would feel good, that would just get me to a point where I could have some sort of foundation that gets the vibe in my head of just more of a saucy groove than a mechanical one. So that's that. I have that. What I would think in my head at this point is that probably the hi-hats would change, but it's like some of the stuff is just placeholders to just keep moving forward. Because again, it's like navigating this hallway of just moving along. There's two ways to go from here. There's actually probably more than that, but for me, what I tend to do is just try to find some real baseline chords or some thing. You can also, let me say this because this might be more fitting, and I feel like this is more of a hack for me usually. So if I've got this sound, which is a nice sound, and then you go to, go to Reverb, Space Designer. This is one I tend to like. And then you go to large spaces, outdoor spaces, thunderclap. I can send this in if you ever need this, if you ever listen to this and you're like, this is the sauce. I will give you this, but then you turn the wet all the way up. One thing that's can be really helpful is to start with, for me, is, and you turn the dry all the way down. Start with just kind of like one note. This like ethereal drone thing is what I tend to, if I'm starting from scratch, it can be really helpful because it just puts something in your head that's different than the drum groove. And the reason for that is like, if I were to play, let's see, if I were to do just regular chords over this drum beat, I would, this is just my lifelong series of stuff that I've acquired, sounds in this side of things, but it's just like what you'd find anywhere else in Logic with any of the other instruments. But if I were to do this one, which I use. If I were to just do this. Something over that. That sounds kind of nice, but there's something about having that extra sound over it that makes, for me anyway, just feel a little bit more like I'm playing something that is already something. And so I guess the way that I would say for that is like, it's never a mistake to just put little things in and see if it works. versus jumping right in to say like, okay, I've got to make the song, and it's like, this song isn't really songy enough, it's not songing, it's not technically a song. It's like, sometimes if you just stick little things in there, and reverb is really good for that, because you can make anything just this sort of, I don't know, weird ethereal sound with it. So, so I would be at this point, if I were to progress, I would try to keep, like the other thing it did for me right there was that without this, it's like, okay, I've got to fill up sonic space. You know, that's something that I'm sure you guys may have talked about in some form or another, but, you know, I see it as like, you know, when you have a song, it's this room, it's a big empty room, and you have to fill it in a way that's interesting for people when they walk in. And so, you know, you get, for me, when I hear just sort of this empty thing, I want to fill it up with stuff. And what happens for me, which may happen for you as you're doing this and as you get into the final project side of things, is like, I will make something really busy at the beginning and then I don't know what else to put in, or it becomes really hard to fit other stuff in the room. And so, but just playing something like, feels really boring, feels like I'm not really doing anything. And so it's like if you have one element that doesn't really feel like it belongs, it's like, well, then it can't belong because it doesn't really feel good. I get stuck in this sort of, this should feel like the end of the song when I'm just starting to make a thing. So when I was just a second ago playing with this thing, it does feel more natural to be really simple with it, which makes it way easier to add stuff because you just got less to do. So with that, I would try to keep it simple as I can. Foundation, and what I would do too here is like, I'd probably carve out, this is a nice piano sound, but it does take up a lot of space. And in the kind of lo-fi music, and this works the opposite for if you're making like big EDM or like heavy hip hop music, is like you want the sounds to be really big. This one I know that I'm going to put something over, and I know, so I'm sort of like, you know, doing the dishes as I'm cooking. It's like I'm mixing while I'm doing it. And that it just occurs to me that it might be nice to not have that be the full thing, so I might take off a little treble from that, a little high end. And if you guys think around in the EQ world.
We did a little bit of this, yeah.
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 So, yeah, as you know, you got the bass all the way to the really high end stuff. And so this thing can be really useful as really a way to carve out, you know, space in the room. And so if I've got this piano, I would just keep going. You can see the information there, of course. I would take some of that off. And lo-fi, which is what we're making it, sort of prides itself on this sort of nostalgic, old, kind of crappy sounding versions of stuff. And so, you know, if you were to record a piano with a really crappy microphone in a, you know, bad room, it would be closer to this, or it would be the exact opposite, where, you know, what you could do, which would be to take out a lot of the bass stuff. And that kind of gives you a cool feel. I wouldn't have had if I didn't carve out that stuff to do some of the more bass note things, but I know as this goes, or my thought is that I'll probably put some lead over this in some capacity, so I figured I'd take out the high end side of it, but point is sort of another stop in the production wheel where somebody will just say, do whatever you want, because you can take out the low end or the high end, or either way. But try to do this. past, you guys have made 808s, right? That's one thing that I heard. And how did you do that?
Like Alchemy, that little software in there. Like,
Yeah.
He showed us a lot of like kind of different ways to like manipulate it and different effects, and it's kind of like Nomi, but it's kind of like Nomi, but we there was like a process we did.
Yeah. Cool.
Just started with a basic sine wave and then built from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, this is that's a digital way, and the crafting of sounds, I think, is that's an example of me as a music guy. Like, I think when I hear this, I think of like a nice upright bass or like a bass, but the people that in the side of music production, it really is sound design. Like, that's such a cool world in and of itself, and the building stuff from sine waves is really cool. And so maybe I'll try to incorporate a little bit of that. In the meantime, in terms of filling up the room, it's like you need a carpet, and that's what I think of the bass. You don't need a carpet, but I think it sounds nice when you do. So let's put this in here. Any of these can get nixed. I could throw them in the trash, but it's at least setting up something for me to try a melody for that either I like or don't like. But at this point, it's just creating the room and then trying to rearrange stuff and pushing on. Like, this is, as I sit here, this is not something that I think to myself, I'll be releasing this tomorrow, and that's totally not the purpose. There's sometimes that as you go on and become world famous and successful music producers, that you will have to have deadlines, but it's like, this stuff's fun. It's fun when you don't have to do that. So for the purpose of it, it's like, I'm in the playground. I'm not really worried about the way that it's going to finish. So let's try to do, and I will quantize this sucker for my own purposes. And so just for the purpose of doing weird stuff and having fun, let's try to do try to make let's see if we can do this. I don't know if I can do this, which is what's going to make it more fun, but try to make a lead out of a snare sound. Beautiful. So, what I would do to take some time to try to get into the quick sampler for a second, I would bounce to this in place. Is that something that you guys have done or do?
Haven't yet.
Cool. So this is cool if you're working on anything. I mean, I'll just take a brief sidebar here to do this. But if you have a MIDI file, which is something that you guys do use in some way, at least have in some of these projects, and a MIDI file being, these green things, and then the audio file being the loops that you used at the beginning, but you can also do this with the audio file. So the purpose of this is actually to turn this into an audio file. So you bounce this in place, and then you hit OK, so none of that stuff really matters. And you end up with this audio file, which is just what I made. But you can chop it, and you can do all the things like when you sample the other things that you sampled, stand and drum beat. So what's cool about this, or where I end up really using this a lot as a way of getting out of my stucks, is I'll drop it, which I did really quick, but if you get the chance, just as you do it, this is a cool tip that I learned a while ago. If you just drag it into this empty space, you can put it into Alchemy, and you can alter the stuff that way. I tend to put it in a quick sampler, but all you have to do is just hold it over the sort of empty space, and you end up with that. So
I get the quick solution now.
then
Rivets takes like 10 minutes.
we end up a quick sampler,
You got
which is something you guys have messed around in. And so this, for whatever reason, gave me a bunch of empty space. I'm going to try to nix that. And then, just for fun and trying to do this, trying to poke around and see what happens, I will try to make these line up to the chords a little bit. And so, now I've got these sort of sampleable trigger pads here. That's a funny one. Aha. Double click that, get that out of there. So, one thing this is really fine tuning, but it's super helpful for you is that you can hear this little click at the beginning of that. And so down here, you guys have talked about envelopes, perhaps, attack, decay, release, sustain, perhaps, something like that.
A little bit
So-
when we did the 808.
Yeah. So it's just shaping sort of the sound of it. So the attack is, how quick it happens. And sometimes with Quick Sampler, if you use it, and you hear that little click at the beginning, that starts to bug you, as it does for me. Down here, if you just drag that thing a little bit, it lowers the attack by just enough that it skips the little click. Anyway, so this is cool because if you have this thing, that sounds really nice, but if you take in the pitch section, the coarse, and you drop it, say, 5, there's something about that piano sound that gets me going. It's nice. It's just nicer, it's thicker, there's something to it, you know what I'm saying? I like it. So, that can be really useful, especially if you have, sometimes I'll do that I'll make a project and I'll think, this thing is the worst thing I've ever made, maybe in my life. And then, if I take out all the drums and I just take the melody stuff and I put it in there, you can flip the song that you have. So if you get to this point, then it's like, this sounds really bad, and you stick it in here and you drop the pitch. There's some times that I've found some of the coolest stuff out of the dumbest stuff, because I can do that, drop the pitch, and it just makes it sound really cool. So, I'm going to try to recreate this with a snare, which I've done a handful of times in my life when I've gotten really stuck, but I figured it's a good exercise for all of us here today. But what I'm going to try to do is bring this thing down to as tiny of a, there's a name for this, and it's granular synthesis, I think. And so we've got this. And you can try to get even smaller, I think. Might be too small. And then, where's the button? I should prepare for this. This is, there should be there is someplace an opportunity to loop this. I might have backed myself into a corner. Let me see. Let me double check before I give up on this.
Should be on the bar right below it.
On this thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where I was looking. Follow tempo, speed. Right, maybe it's hidden. Maybe it's run away. Well.
Oh, it's because you're in one shot. Go to classic.
Ah!
There you
Saving the day. Perfect. Okay, so, go in reverse. Lost my no loop. There she is. Nice. And that's out of a snare, so that's cool. You can find one. Great. So now you have a thing. I don't know I don't know what actual note that is. Not the right one. We know that. Let's see if I can try to do this quickly to not get too out of whack here. All right, let's see. There we go. We're just one semitone off, which makes a lot of sense because that sounded terrible. All right. So then. Or maybe I'm not. Great. So. That sounds terrible as it fits. So let's try to just mess around with this for a second. So, reverb is always a good way to make things sound a little less aggressive. Bring this down a little. You can do kind of like a cool organ sound. And so that might be for me to straight. I'm trying to think of how to do this. Okay, we have an option. We're getting off track here, but I hope we're all on board. This is we're into the weeds of trying to find something different, but I'll get back to normal song structure in a second. But if you go down here, this is something too, if you do ever get interested in it, let me know and I'll write this up and send it to you and exactly how to do it, because I know this is a lot to try to remember the specifics of. But if you turn this into that, it should be, maybe that's not correct. Ooh. Target as, right here, the pitch envelope, perhaps. Alright, I'm really too deep in the mix here. Alright, let me do this the way that I know how to do it, and then I'll come back to it. So, if I were to use something like this, which we can recreate, and I'll make sure I remember how to do it in a little bit, but this is a plugin that essentially adds, it's supposed to replicate a tape machine, so it can make it sound like old school and warbly and makes it sound a little bit more human. So that would be something that I might reach for in this scenario. Now you have that kind of old school reverby. Again, not the best thing I've ever made, but it does make these are nice chords. So let's see if I were to. Actually, even one thing, if you ever want to drop a track down, if you hold the option and click it, you can just duplicate it, all the MIDI stuff. So if I wanted to stack these things, layer, that's the word I was looking for, layer them, you can do that. That's one thing that is also a hack as you start to get into this stuff. If you have like chords and they don't really feel like they're that full, or if you have something that you can do it with snares, you can do it with anything, but layering can be really powerful in terms of really making the room feel more full, or coming up with different sounds, or some of the coolest sounds that I've found are just, it's like a piano and something else layered on top of each other that sound really nice. And so, that's an example. Now you have essentially it's not like strings or something. So from there to similarly, I would think it sounds really nice, but I want the piano and this thing to work together really well. So it'd be nice if they sounded very similar. So I'd take some top end off that too to try to make it just sound a little bit more like it belongs. And so now we're back sort of in the lane of normal song making.
Just a heads up, Ryan, we got about 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay, so from here we have this, and I would like lo-fi stuff. That's pretty close. I mean, it's pretty simple. And so, what I would say for a lead, you can add just a little bit of distortion, and sometimes that can make things pop a little bit. Actually, let me get to, before I hop into that, let me get to what Mr. Schumacher and I talked about before this, which is fat effects. You guys popped around in there at all? You seen that? Is the effect on there? I'll show you, which is that if you get, I do this a lot on the whole thing, so on the stereo out of track, there's this effect that you can do that's in here, and it's in multi-effects called fat effects. And this can be really helpful if you have like a breakdown, or if you have some part of the song that gets quieter, or you just need movement in any particular way. There's this thing, which is, I think, a hack. Technically a filter. And so it can be really cool. What I would do in this scenario with the way the lo-fi stuff works is I would have, before the song started, what you can do is have this as like an intro. I haven't changed the song or tried to make it any more interesting as an intro. Wow, good timing with the bell. But that's really cool, and then for the melody, I would just try to find something that fits, and then just try to make that pop a little bit more. Try to make the melody, and with distortion or with reverb or with something like that, you can really make it pop out more. But anyway, got a little off track in the middle of it, but I hope that was helpful in some way. And more importantly, if you ever have any specific questions or anything comes up, or you're working on a project and you're like, what was that thing that you did or anything, Mr. Schumacher can give you my email, and I'm happy to talk to you or help out or give you any thoughts on the industry or anything at all.
Cool.
All right. Yeah, nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of the day.
You too.